I could say I had some profound moments throughout my life that were inspired by moments of like r really deep depression
Mm,
and fear and um, that just continued to reveal what we usually overlook.
mm,
And so I could say my first glimpse that I remember as a 6-year-old, my parents were getting divorced and it was a traumatic process. I had parents that did the best they could, but boy, were those beloveds full of all kinds of trauma and all kinds of unquestioned assumptions and so there was a lot of dysfunction and a lot of anger. And in that, my mother just took me and my little brother out of where we were living. And all of a sudden, we were in a brand new place. I didn't have my friends or my dad or the beach. We were living in South Beach. And then all of a sudden, she moved us to North Carolina. I had an aunt who was in the army. So she lives at an army base. And I'm a little 6-year-old at an army base, all of a sudden in the middle of the school year, going to a new school, absolutely terrified and depressed. I remember not being able to walk up the stairs because I was too sad to do any of that. And I was in the cafeteria and I got my cereal, my tray, and I looked around and decided where I could sit where nobody was sitting. It was like the darkest, most obscure corner of the cafeteria. And I sat there and I was hypersensitive. I kind of felt like if anyone asked me my name or said anything to me, I would just, the dam would be released and I'd be full of tears. And yeah, so I wanted to be invisible. Don't look at me, don't see me. So I was very meticulous in how I opened the cereal and opened my spork. And and I remember I took a bite of those frosted flakes and it was like thunder in my mouth. The sound of that crunch was so loud. I imagined that everyone stopped what they were doing to stare at me. And, then I imagined that they were listening so intently that their ears popped off of their heads. And then I imagined that all these ears were floating around the cafeteria with little wings on them, and that they somehow knew that they needed to rush to the center. And the moment that all these ears rushed to the center, they formed one giant ear. And the moment that there was this sense of one giant ear, it was the way I can explain it. It was like I was no longer there was like a shift in my perception, a pop, a bubble burst, and I was no longer experiencing life through the filter of 6-year-old Ash. And there was just this vast expanse of peace, of being. And the way my 6-year-old brain interpreted that moment was, oh, every ear together makes God's ear. Every hand together makes God's hand. Every heart together makes God's heart. It was like the sense of this is God experiencing itself.
mm.
And that was such grace and such a blessing. And then a meditation practice formed after that. I had no clue what meditation was. Nobody around me was meditating. Um, but anytime there was some turbulence in my experience, I'd always just stop and ask, is the big ear here? And I would listen. And it was really sweet. I'd listen and listen and listen. And first I'd listen to all the things happening in the neighborhood or in the household. And then I noticed that I can listen to my to like the internal landscape of my being, to my thoughts, to my feelings, to, whatever was happening in my belly, to my breathing. And it was like listening was endless. And then it got to this point where the listener, that which I was being listened, and the one doing the listening, just, whatever, all of that just blurred into just one silent presence. And yeah, and it just continued, just this love for this presence, for this moment. I remember I went to the bathroom, and as I was passing the mirrors, I just I had a glimpse of I looked at my, as I was crying and I was I had a glimpse in the mirror and I stopped and I noticed something that was not at all touched by any of the storyline, any of the emotionality, any of the drama, any that was just totally at ease, totally clear, totally present. And that was sweet. Couple months after that, we went to film a music video in Machu Picchu. And I stepped off the helicopter, like we went through a helicopter through the mountains, which was amazing. And as soon as the helicopter landed and I stepped off the helicopter, it was another profound moment where any sense of a world or of a person or of time or of was just revealed to be empty, no independent nature. uh, Took the back seat. And even though there was helicopter and sounds and llama and production team and makeup artists, and it was like nothing was separate, nothing was happening outside of me. And that was really profound. And then it was interesting over the years, I had made a story about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I had no guidance and no, you know, one of the things that I love to talk about now is this aspect of a grace period,
Mm.
you know, especially in the context of human beings having a genuine realization, awakening of what's true, but in their innocence and not having an awareness of how mind works, mind slowly creeping in, co-opting, corrupting
Mm-hmm.
any sense of this spontaneous, alive fire, and then enlightened ego forms. And boy, all the insanity that happens from there.
Totally.
But I had this sense of maybe the helicopter landed where a shaman laid to rest and this energy went through me, or maybe my dad, I mean, I'm 16, maybe my dad sent down a burst of energy from heaven. Or,
Mm.
you know, like these stories started forming, like, what was it? How do I recreate it?
Mm.
And yeah, I feel really lucky that after I left the group, my contract was up. I got to go back and try to recreate the experience and recognize the innocence in that and the futility in that. uh, and really begin a profound education in the nature of mind, and in that simultaneously the unwavering stability of what's here and who I am.
Mm.
Of course, plant medicine came into the mix. As I was living in Peru back in 1996, I was led to a plant medicine ceremony, and I got to live with a tribe called the Shuar for a couple of months. And it was profound to meet plant medicine from that space.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I love how Papaji speaks of imaginary medicine for an imaginary disease.
Mm-hmm.
And and it was real, I feel really blessed that that was my experience of it. It was like, oh, this is dream medicine for dream disease. And no
Mm.
matter how much medicine I ingested, awareness was never touched.
Mm.
This presence was never tripping. And it was really cool to recognize the psychedelic nature of mind. Oh wow, mind is such a psychedelic.
Totally. Yeah.